Welcome to the Nuke Zone. A lot of dominoes fell today, man. Lane Kiffin to LSU. He leaves his 11-1 football team that's going to the playoff to go to LSU. Pete Golding takes his spot as the new permanent head coach at Ole Miss. Golish goes to Auburn. Summerall goes to Florida. Silverfield to Arkansas. But I got to circle back to Kiffin, man. His 11-1 team, like I just said, is going to the playoff. He won't be there. Everything I read, his offensive staff won't be there either. That is big. That is very big. You had an explosive offense, all this and that, and now you don't have your coaching staff. How does that affect Chambliss? How does that affect Lacey? How does that affect those receivers? How does it affect this team, man? I mean, we don't even – I mean, in this day and age, they may not even have guys to play. Some of them might drop out and just go ahead and transfer to LSU. I am not saying they are, but in this day and age, you never know, man. I doubt it. I'd go play in the game, but it ain't me, okay? Man, but I'm not going to blame Kiffin for this. I am not going to blame Ole Miss's athletic director for this, okay? I do not blame you for not letting Kiffin coach it. And then LSU, I imagine they didn't want Kiffin to coach it anyways, okay? But, man, I blame it on the calendar, all right? The calendar is set up where you have early signing day. You have the transfer portal. Big, big, big recruiting things are right in the middle of the playoff, man. And, I mean, there's a simple way to fix it, but we're not going to get into all that. But I blame the calendar. The calendar sets this up to happen, frankly. All right? I mean, there's going to be players on the playoff teams getting in the portal right in the middle of the playoffs. They did it last year. They'll do it again. And it's just not good for college football. They're going to have to fix the calendar so things like this don't happen, okay? I don't blame Kiffin for taking that job. I understand why he did it. I do wish he would have stayed, okay? I would have stayed if I was him, but I'm not the one making that decision. And like I said, I don't blame him. I see why he did it. But that's not a decision for me to make, so we'll move on. We're going to get into the games. And I feel like there wasn't a lot of upsets in terms of ranked teams. And there's more than a few games that just, I mean, they weren't really games. But this one was, and this one hurt, okay? 11-0 Texas A&M. I said it multiple times how elite they were, how great they were. And they went into DKR and lost by 10 points. I said they win by 2 scores. They lost by 2 scores. All right. But the game was set up at halftime perfect for A&M. Okay. They have dominated the second half all year, and they win at halftime. They got a score up 10-3. They're getting the ball of the half. Okay. And how this team's played in the second half, I fully expect them to go down the field and score, go up 17-3. And that did not happen. Okay. You shut down Texas offense for a half. And then you went into the second half, and Sark and his team, they got together, and they outplayed, outcoached. They outdid you in every facet of the game. They outscored you 24-7 in the second half. Okay, you came out and got a 3-and-out right off the bat. Texas, first play from scrimmage, Wisner hits for a 48-yard run, and they get a field goal. And then you go 3-and-out again. And then Texas get a touchdown. And then you punt the ball back. Okay, they lost that game. It started to lose that game when Wisner got that run, okay? That gave that Texas offense life. In the second half, Wisner had a 48-yard run, a 16-yard run, a 17-yard run, an 11-yard run, and I think there was another 12-yard run that I didn't write down. Texas owned the line of scrimmage in the second half. They were a dang good football team in the second half, and Texas A&M, you weren't, okay? Did you play hard? Yes, but you just thoroughly got your ass kicked, all right? There's no way to sugarcoat it. That's just what happened. You got beat at every facet of the game in the second half. All right. And you still had a chance, a slim chance. Don't get me wrong, but you still had a chance. You're in scoring position with a little bit of time left, enough to make something happen, and you throw a pick. That was the game. Okay. I felt like the game honestly ended when you answered with a touchdown. You're down 20-17, and then Texas drove down the field, and Arch had a big run for a touchdown. You're down 27-17 at that point, and that's when the game was over. Okay, that was the dagger in the heart. You couldn't let them score, and you did. Okay, Texas controlled the line of scrimmage, like I said, preached and preached and preached the line of scrimmage. And if Texas could get a run game going, and they did get a run game going, man, Wisner 19 for 155. 2 years in a row, he is just straight up mollywopped on A&M, man. 2 years in a row. Arch, he had a good game, 179 yards passing. He had 53 yards rushing. I mean, the first half was bad for the Texas offense. Okay. A&M's defense outplayed them in the first half. A&M outplayed Texas in the first half. Nobody watching that game thought that Texas won the first half. They lost on the scoreboard, they lost on the field, and then you go into the second half and you just completely changed the narrative of the game. Right? You took a team that dominated the second half all year long and you put them in a blender. You gave them a taste of their own medicine. And shout out Texas. I mean, like I said, Arch, Wisner stats, Jack Injuries had 4 catches for 93 yards. Wingo, 4 for 34. But the one critical thing was that touchdown catch he had. And that's truly what changed. I mean, yeah, you had some things leading up to changing the game. But when he caught that touchdown pass, that wobbly throw from Arch, and you're like, well, I thought he threw it in the stands, to be honest with you. And then Wingo comes down with it at the back of the end zone. And from that point on, Texas had every single bit of momentum, and it never changed, okay? Like they were leading up to, they had it going with the momentum and going and going and going, and then that play happened and it was over. Texas controlled the game from that point forward, and they got a big win. Simple as that. Marcel Reed, 180 yards passing, threw 2 picks down there at the end. The first one was a dagger in the heart, okay? If the Archer touchdown run wasn't enough, that was insult to injury right there. You throw it, you're about to score, you got a chance, and then you throw a pick. And A&M couldn't run the ball at all, okay? Oh, it's 48 yards on 13 carries, 3.7 per carry. Man, Texas owned the line of scrimmage second half. Ethan Burke was making plays. Colin Simmons was getting the backfield too. And that one hurts for A&M. But now my question is, how do you respond from that, okay? Your season isn't over, all right? And now comes the true test of how you respond. That loss hurts more than anything you could have had happen all season. That one hurts. But your season isn't over. How are you going to respond? Okay, Ohio State lost their rivalry game last year, and y'all saw what happened. Now, I'm not predicting A&M to do something like Ohio State. My viewpoint on this team has not changed. I told you how elite I thought they were, and I still think that. But you got to respond, okay? If you don't respond, you're going to go out in the first round and get beat no matter who you play, okay? You could be anywhere from the 5 seed to the 8 seed, to be honest, all right? You get the 5 or 6, I feel really confident. You get the 7 or 8, we're talking about a whole different ball game. You're playing a lot better team at that point. How do you respond? Do you just lay down and quit? Does that loss just hang over you for the rest of the time and you lose your first round? Or do you squeak by a G5 team the first round and then get the second round bad? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, okay? They have to respond, or they can load up and they can make a run, right? Because they have all the potential to beat anyone. But they also have the potential to get beat by anyone, okay? Because they are susceptible to turn the ball over. But they're also great at making big plays. They didn't make them versus Texas, okay? The second half, I want to say the only true big play was the sack on Arch on Udom had. And it didn't matter, right? Because you lost 24-7 in the second half and you lost that football game. Man, that's my only thing. How are you going to respond, Texas A&M? Texas, you're not getting in the playoff, okay? Is your team good enough to get in the playoff? Yes. Is it one of the best 12 teams in the country? More than likely. But it's the best 12 teams with the best 12 resumes. Almost, okay? Really the best 10 because you're going to get a G5 and ACC. But you get my point. And your resume falls short because you lost that game to Florida. Don't blame it on losing the first game to Ohio State. That game honestly helped you. It's the losing to Florida. If you just win that game at Florida, you're anywhere from a 5 to 8 seed, just like A&M right now, okay? But you lost that game at Florida, and that's why you're not going to be in the playoff. Simple as that, okay? Man. All right, we got to move on. How are you going to respond, A&M? I've said it multiple times. I'll say it again. How are you going to respond? To get Moss and Scooby back by the playoff game, I'm sure. So we will see. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, jumping back to Kiffin. Man, I was all over this being an actual game because I did think Kiffin was going to take the LSU job. And I felt like because of that, his team might play down and Mississippi State would give him a game. And then Kamario Taylor starts, and I'm really thinking we're going to have a ball game. And Kamario Taylor, you played great. Like I said, Mississippi State, you got to hold on to that guy. Do not let him leave. Put as much as you can around him because he is going to be a stud. If he develops the right way, he is going to be an absolute stud. The dude had 173 rushing yards at the quarterback position. Threw for 178 in the pick. I'm telling you, you got a dog right there. You got to build around him, man. But his stats don't compare. All right, Trinidad Chambliss, 359, 4 touchdowns. Keywan Lacey adds another 100-yard rusher on Mississippi State with 143 on the ground. They win 38-19. And I feel like this game was just a lot of missed opportunity for Mississippi State. Every time they had a chance to do something, they just couldn't get it done. And then the few times they did get it done, They let Ole Miss answer with a touchdown like that. Okay, like they had a touchdown, and then you got a chance to possibly fight back. You have to get a stop, and you give up a long passing touchdown. All right, those are things that can happen. And I mean, I think the talent difference showed. Ole Miss came ready to play, which honestly kind of shocked me considering I thought Kiffin was leaving. But he had them guys ready to play. I mean, he had them ready to play all year when he was in these coaching searches. And I probably should have looked at that more. But I made a wrong prediction, and Ole Miss just outplayed them. Simple as that. Great job to Ole Miss. I'm rooting for you in the playoffs, okay? I mean, this is going to be – it sucks. You lose your coach. And I think it all has to do with the calendar and a lot of egos involved. But you're 11-1. You are in the playoff. Make some noise, man. That'd be a great story for y'all to make a run. But, yeah, Mississippi State, like I said, build around Kamario Taylor, man. Build around that dude. All right. Indiana, on Friday, they routed Purdue. Just absolute blowout. Georgia Tech. Stockton had 70 yards passing. They ran for, as a team, 190 yards. It wasn't like an impressive day for Georgia. Their defense did play good. But they only won 16-9. This game came down to the last play Hail Mary. Sorry. It didn't happen, though, obviously. But, I mean, you got the win. You survived. At the end of the day, the game didn't matter outside of bragging rights. To a lot of people. To me, it would matter everything. But that's not me. Georgia gets the win. They're going to play Alabama in the SEC Championship. And outside of that game, the Georgia team that we've seen the past few weeks before that, playing the Alabama team we saw on Saturday, give me Georgia by 3 scores. I don't think we're going to get both of those teams, okay? I don't think Alabama's going to play crappy, all right? Anyways, moving on. Now to Saturday. Ohio State, Michigan. Michigan has owned Ohio State the last 4 years. And then they come out, they get a field goal on the opening drive, then they get a pick right off the bat, and they get another field goal. You're up 6-0. And I'm going to say that's them punching Ohio State in the mouth. Because as a Ohio State fan, you're probably, after that pick, you're probably thinking, oh, no, not again. Not again. You got punched in the mouth. And I asked the question multiple times, what is going to happen when somebody actually punches Ohio State in the mouth? They answered, all right, 27-9 win in Ann Arbor in the snow, man. Julian saying 233 for 3 touchdowns. Bo Jackson, man, he's going to be a stud, man. 22 for 117. Jeremiah Smith added a touchdown. Controversial touchdown, but it's a touchdown nonetheless. Man. Bryce Underwood, he was 8 of 18 for 63 yards and a pick. And as a team, Michigan had 24 carries for 100 yards. But 58 yards came on 2 runs. You take away those 2 runs, they were 22 of 42. Ohio State controlled the line of scrimmage in the game. They outdid Michigan in their own game. They out-physicaled them. Simple as that, man. They ran the ball great on them. They were 47 for 186 as a team, just under 5 yards per carry. It's funny because they beat Michigan at Michigan's ball game. Threw in a few shots there. They hit one to Tate, hit the other one to Smith. And they just dominated Michigan. Simple as that. Okay? There's no other way to put it. They went in Ann Arbor and got the win. That was big for Ohio State, I think. Okay? Because you got punched in the mouth and you answered. You're one of the most talented teams in the country. You got multiple dudes on defense. Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles. On offense, you got possibly the best player in the country in Jeremiah Smith. You got a solid quarterback in Sayin. You got a stud running back in Bo Jackson. You got Carnell Tate. You have all the pieces to win another national championship. And you showed me what happens when you get punched in the mouth because you answered. Now I think you got to go do it again versus Indiana in the Big Ten championship. But you answered a lot of questions for me because your schedule's soft leading up to that. That's not your fault, okay? You played Texas, and then you really didn't play much of anybody, and then you played Michigan, okay? And a team that you haven't beat in more than a few years. And you didn't just beat them, you dominated them in their home. After they went up 6-0 on you. After you threw a pick, okay? That was big for Ohio State. Answered a lot of questions I had. I never questioned the talent. I just questioned what's going to happen when they face adversity. I think for once this season they faced it, and they answered it great. They handled it, and now they go play Indiana. All right? Good win, Ohio State. That is big, man. Whew. Texas Tech, they routed West Virginia. Oregon made this big play. Malik Benson's touchdown put the dagger in Washington. They get the win 26-14, locking up another playoff spot. BYU, bad first quarter, down 14-0, and then you outscored them 17-0 in the second quarter and went on to rout them by over 3 scores. Big win. Where are we going next? LSU, OU, man. OU you almost blew it. You almost blew it. Mateer, 3 picks, man. He almost did it. But he did throw for over 300. You got a give and take, I guess, of that offense, man. At least he threw for over 300. All right. He throws for 3 picks in a playoff game, you're probably losing. All right. But they're down 13-10. LSU blew coverage at the absolute worst time of the game, and Satenga scores a touchdown. They win the game 17-13. LSU's driving after the big kickoff return. You got a 4th and 2 and not a lot of time left, and you completely botch it. Deflected at the line, nothing happening. You lose the game, simple as that. OU's defense is dang good, man, dang good. The only question with them is, can they get any offense going in the playoffs? All right. I think OU's in, obviously, as I'm saying, they're in the playoff. But you got to have offense. You're going to have off. You cannot keep relying on this defense to do basically everything. All right. I don't care if you play bad throughout half the game. Just have a good quarter on offense, and you have a chance to win games, how good this defense is. All right. Because what I said almost happened with you going 3 and out, 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 and your defense is it's going to bust eventually. When you get in the playoffs and play really good offenses, and your offense keeps going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, that defense is going to bust because they're on the field the whole game. You're going to have to figure something out. You got to figure it out. We're too late in the season to be doing this, all right? But that defense is elite, man. I question the secondary, but their front just gets there so quick. It doesn't really matter. I know they didn't have a sack versus LSU, but I don't really care. They were all over Van Buren. He was running for his life, okay? Can their offense figure something out? Okay? You need Mateer throwing for 300 without the 3 picks because you haven't been able to run the ball with your running backs outside of a few games. You haven't been able to really run the ball, period, at all, majority of the season. Okay? You got to answer, man. You got to answer. Miami, you dogged Pittsburgh, okay? 38-7. Great game all around for Miami. I told y'all they're going to get after Heishel, and they made the plays that mattered. And frankly, I think that puts them side by side with Notre Dame, and I'd give the head to Miami. You beat them. Your resume matters. They're playing like the talented team. They played on Saturday like that talented team they should be. You went into hostile territory, freezing cold, different environment for you, and you just beat up on them. All right? I didn't think Pitt was in the same tier as Miami at all, and they showed. Okay, Miami just dogged them. Okay, they're getting after Heishel. Big game for Miami. If it comes down to who's in them or Notre Dame, you got to give it to Miami, man. They got the win. Win should matter. Head-to-head should matter. All right. Oh, man. Touched on it a minute ago. Alabama and Auburn. Alabama survives at Jordan-Hare 27-20. I said it was going to be a close game. I had my doubts when it was 17-0. Okay. And then Auburn battled back, but they literally fumbled and dropped this game away. They had 4 fumbles. The only one they lost was the crucial one at the end that Coleman fumbled. But 4 fumbles, I don't even know how many drops, man. They dropped so many passes. That's frankly what lost the game. You scored a touchdown and got called back. You had so many missed opportunities. You get the stop on Alabama, you get a rough in the pass. Right before that, you got to stop and you got a PI. Those are mistakes that can't happen. Not when you're that big of an underdog. You cannot have mistakes like that against that good of a team. I mean, you messed up Ty Simpson all day long. He was 19 of 35 for 122 yards. But you allowed 3 touchdowns. Isaiah Horton, shout out. You got the hat trick, man. Your offense, I mean, Daniels, he was the only bit of running game they really had. He had 108 on the ground. He had 258 through the air. And then Simmons, you had 3 catches for 143 yards and a touchdown. And you should have had another one. You should have had more yards than that. But you had 5 guys in the backfield. You cannot have those mistakes in games like that, okay? I mean, you should have beat them, to be honest. But you gave it away, all right? You had all the momentum, and you just gave it away. You literally fumbled it away. 4 fumbles. If anybody's watching, they know, especially the one drive where you had a drop pass that was really close to being a fumble. Then you fumbled it again, and then you fumbled it again. So it was only right the game ended in a fumble. All right. But, I mean, Auburn, they hired their new head coach. We'll see where things go from there. Alabama, you get to the SEC championship. Man, that would have been bad if Alabama lost. Ole Miss playing a conference championship without the coach. But Alabama, you're going to have to be better than that. Okay? When you go play Georgia, you're going to have to be better than that. I know you beat Georgia in their house. Okay? But playing a team a second time is hard. Beating a team a second time is hard. I'm not saying they don't beat them, but that's going to be tough. All right? If you play like that, you will lose. Okay? Simple as that. Vanderbilt and Tennessee. It's going to suck for Vandy. They go 10-2, and there's a good chance they miss the playoffs, man. But Diego Pavia, 268, touchdown. Dude had himself a game. Alexander had 115 yards and 3 touchdowns. Listen, this game started. Pavia throws 2 picks in the first half, and they still won the game by 21. Just true domination, especially in the second half, man. This Vandy team is fun to watch. They make big plays. They play hard as heck, man. You're a 10-2 SEC team. You deserve to be in, but you lost 2 games on the road to 2 ranked teams. I'm like, you ended the season with a ranked win on the road at Neyland, but I don't think you're going to get in on it. Just looking at the field and how it is, you're going to need a lot of things to fall your way, and I don't think they're going to fall your way just because of where you're at. Okay, you're still behind Miami. Alabama, you're playing the SEC championship. Will they still leave the runner-up in the SEC out of the playoff because they lost in their SEC championship game? I highly doubt that. Not to mention it's Alabama. Okay, and it's going to suck for Vandy because you were so close. This is the best season probably ever in Vandy's history. All right? I mean, yeah, it is. It's the first 10-win season ever. And you're going to miss playoff. Yeah, it sucks. They are fun to watch. Tulane gets it done 27-0. Notre Dame gets it done 49-20. But now we just look at conference championship weekend, okay? I mean, Texas Tech, BYU. What happens if BYU wins that game? I doubt it. But what happens if they do? Okay? I mean, I feel like these teams are locks for the playoff, okay? Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Oregon, A&M, Ole Miss, Texas Tech. Those teams are in, I think, no matter what happens. Now, teams on the bubble. OU, Bama, Notre Dame, Miami, Vanderbilt, BYU. And then another category, I got Virginia, Tulane, North Texas, JMU. Okay, because if Duke beats Virginia, ACC, really good chance they don't have a team to get in. That's awful, man. A 7-5 team in the conference championship. How does that work? I don't know. A Power 4 conference has a 7-5 team in the conference championship. Sit in there and think on that. And it's not like Duke played a tough schedule, man. I mean, they lost to UConn. They lost to Tulane. Like, can't have that. But I feel like OU is in. Okay, I'm going to put that out there. So that gives me 8 teams. I'm going to say Alabama is in. But if they go into the SEC championship and just get skull dragged by Georgia, I don't think that happens. If they did, I think they're out. That's the only way. You're going to have to get truly dismantled by Georgia for them to be out. I find it very, very, very hard to believe just because Alabama has 3 losses playing an extra game in the SEC championship that they would leave them out. I find it really hard to believe that they would leave them out. Okay? Then you got the Notre Dame-Miami conundrum. All right? So if I put Bama in, it gives me 9. Only one of these teams is getting in. And I know Notre Dame is ranked higher, but it should be Miami. Okay? You can sit there and say, well, Notre Dame's played better, blah, 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 blah. And that game was in week 1. I don't care that it was in week 1. Head-to-head should matter. This Miami team has played good since they got beat by SMU. They have played really good since they got beat by SMU. Put them on the same tier. Well, what have we decided on? They played each other, and Miami won. I don't care that it was in Miami. I don't care that it was week 1. I don't care that Notre Dame hasn't lost since week 2. Miami beat them. So if it comes down to one of them two being in, it should be Miami. And then if you want to throw something else in there, why don't you say Vandy or BYU? Because if BYU beats Texas Tech, they're in. They'd be 12-1 conference champion. Obviously, they're an auto bid at that point. All right? Vandy, you're a 10-2 SEC team versus a 10-2 Notre Dame team with no conference who has a ranked win over USC, and that's it. Then Miami, you're 10-2. You lost to Louisville and SMU. Louisville went 8-4, and I believe SMU did too. All right, because SMU got beat by Cal. I didn't even bring that up. Oh my God. Yeah, Cal beat SMU. I don't know if you knew that. True freshman, 350 through the air, 4 touchdowns. Dog. Anyways, oh, my foot's stuck. You really want things to get dicey in this playoff? It's when Duke beats Virginia, and then you have Tulane, North Texas, and JMU fighting for 2 spots. So basically the winner of the American between Tulane and North Texas, and then JMU if they win. And the funny part about that is 2 of them for sure won't have their head coach there next year. And then JMU, Bob Chesney's in talks too. Okay, I saw him for Penn State. I saw him for UCLA. Like I said, you got to fix the calendar, man. You got to fix the calendar. All right, this is how we're going to write it up, how I think it's going to go. All right. Right now, I'm going to put Ohio State at 1. I'm going to say they beat Indiana right now. Okay, so the Big Ten champ is number 1. Simple as that. That is what I'm picking because whoever wins it's undefeated. They'd be the only undefeated team left. All right. Big Ten champ at 1. If Georgia wins, I'm putting them at 2. All right. So we got Big Ten champ at 1, and if Georgia wins, they're at 2. And then 3, I'm going Indiana. Or the loser of the Big Ten championship, I'm going 3. Okay. Assuming Tech wins, I got them 4. And then now you can pick and choose. I'm going to go with what I think they would do, not necessarily what I would do, okay? For obvious reasons you're about to see. I think they'll put Oregon over A&M at 5. So then you got to decide, is it A&M or Ole Miss at 6 or 7? I'm going to go with A&M at 6. They still have their head coach. They have a better defense. Offense, you can pick and choose, okay? I think A&M's a better team. I think metrically they are also the better team. They had a harder strength of schedule. They're number 3 in strength of record. And like I said, you still have your head coach. There's so many questions behind Ole Miss. I think in a tie-breaking type scenario out of Oregon, A&M, and Ole Miss, you got to put Ole Miss 3rd. Statistically, Oregon has a better defense than A&M, so I see why you give Oregon the edge. All right, and I'll give A&M the edge over Ole Miss. Even before Kiffin leaving, I would. But now, especially with Kiffin leaving, I'm going to put Ole Miss at 7, A&M at 6. Then we get into the next. OU at 8. Like I said, this is what I think they're going to. I think they're going to screw Miami, and they're going to put Notre Dame at 9. And then Alabama's going to be your 10 after they lose the SEC championship, according to this right here, okay? I got Georgia winning if they win. I got Georgia at 2, Alabama at 10. Virginia wins the ACC. They're at 11. And then 12 is a G5, okay? Is Summerall going to – I have no idea if Summerall's coaching for the rest of the season. I'm going to go ahead and assume he is, but I am not positive on that at all. So say he's not, and then Eric Morris is not, and JMU routes who they're playing in the Sun Belt champ. Do you put JMU in because they still have their head coach? I don't know. Okay, I got to look into that a little more. We'll see. But that's where I think it'll end up. And, 5 or 6. If you were the 5 or 6 seed, you couldn't ask for anything better. Okay, because you're going to play either a G5. Both of them could play a G5. Or the 5 is going to play a G5 and the 6 plays the ACC champ. And in that case, it'd be Virginia. Couldn't ask for a better draw at 5 or 6. Now, if you're the 7 team like Ole Miss, yeah, you get a home game, but there's a chance you're playing Alabama. You're playing Alabama, Notre Dame, OU, Miami, Vandy, possibly BYU, possibly. You're playing one of those teams at 10. That would suck, man. There is a big difference between 6 and 7. Those seedings are going to matter, determining who you play. Okay. And then, like I just said all this, what if Alabama beats Georgia again? Do you give a 2-loss SEC champ a bye? Because frankly, I think you should. I don't care that they were 10 on the last ranking. If you win the SEC, you should deserve a bye. Simple as that. Because what, you're going to have Ohio State, Indy, Oregon and Texas Tech is your buys. Right? I'm not sure if teams want to buy. I mean, you're almost going. You're going 3 weeks without a game. Everyone's going 3 weeks without a game, but at least you're not coming off 3 weeks and then playing a team who played last week in a big game. All right? I mean, that stuff has stipulation. We saw what happened last year. Ohio State played around and then went in and beat Oregon, and then won Natty. All right. If I'm in the playoff right now, I want the 5 or 6 seed. Simple as that. All right. Oregon and A&M, I think, are set up to get it. We'll see what happens. But in like that case, what if BYU beats Tech? I don't think BYU jumps everybody and gets a bye for obvious reasons. Tech, I don't think, gets a bye at that point. And they preach not letting people jump who didn't play on the last weekend, but I think you would have to let them bump. So in that case, say Alabama beats Georgia. Does Alabama and Georgia get a bye along with Ohio State and Indy? I mean, there are so many questions. We're going to get some of them answered on Tuesday by our awful committee. But yeah, all right. I'm going to end this on, if A&M is lower than 6, that's terrible. All right. If Ole Miss is ranked over A&M, that's terrible. All right. And if it comes down to having to choose Notre Dame or Miami, and you choose Notre Dame, that is terrible. Miami beat Notre Dame. Does head-to-head not matter then? I don't care what week it happened, week 1 or the last week. It should not matter, okay? And for all the Texas people that are probably going to be in my comments coming at me because I didn't put Texas on the bubble, you're a 3-loss team, all right? It would be different if you were 10-2 playing the SEC champ and then you lost and making you 10-3, but you're not, okay? You're not in the playoff, like I said earlier, because you lost to Florida. If you just win that game versus a 4-8 Florida team, you're in the playoff. It is, I mean, it's not, there's zero question about it. You're at worst a 7 seed. At the very, I take that back because I have A&M at 6. So you're a 6 seed at worst at 10-2. Because you beat OU, you beat A&M, who are both on my top 8 right now, that I just wrote down. So, I mean, that's as simple as that, man. I don't deny that you have the team. You just dog walked one of the best second half teams in the country in the second half, right? But you're not going to get in because you have 3 losses. It's not because the Ohio State loss. It's not because the Georgia loss. Those are understandable losses. You lost at 7 on the road to the number 1 team in the country. That is understandable in week 1. But you lost to Florida. That's the issue, all right? That is what's going to keep you out. It's not because you lost to Ohio State. It's not because you got beat by Georgia. It's because you got beat by Florida. It has nothing to do with Ohio State and Georgia, okay? But you do have a team, and you got to think, how many guys you got coming back? I would not worry if I'm a Texas fan, okay, at all. I know they're A&M's rival and all, but I also understand how good they are. And I painted that out in my A&M Texas video. I painted out all the ways for them to beat A&M, and that second half, they did them all right? And I know I made the wrong prediction. I owned up to it, but we're here, okay? Conference Champs Weekend is going to have a lot of implications on how things end up, and I'm looking forward to it. Man, I hate that we got to wait 3 weeks for a playoff game now. So we'll play the Conference Champ, then we get Army and Navy. See, that's 1, 2. Yeah, so 3. That's how it lines up. Man, we got a big weekend of football coming up, and I'll be at work on Tuesday and Wednesday, so we will drop another video on Thursday outlining the conference championships. I'll break them all down. We'll have a good time with it, all right?